Oh, you will someday.
We're live.
We want to have travel, like Don retired on Fiverr. I love it all. It's hard to get someone to watch the dog when we go and I won't.
Welcome, everybody. We're going live now. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Penny, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Burns,
Here.
Miss Angeline,
Here.
Ms. Meyer, Ms. Mr. Babel,
Here.
Ms. Bolt.
Here.
Okay, we have 4 members and we're in a special meeting. The only thing that I'm not going to ask for any type of approval for absences tonight, simply because it's not on the agenda. So we're sort of in a position that we can only discuss things that are in the agenda. Cindy Ozer will be here tonight. She's our fiscal officer. I think she had a volleyball game or something, so she told me she would be late. So we may have to move her to later to accommodate that. So the first thing I would like to do in your packets, you should have the minutes from the July 9th, 2025 council meeting. So I'd like you to look at those first. And then I would like to have, if there's no questions, a motion to approve. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the July 9th, 2025 council meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Babel. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Burns. Any further discussion? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Miss Angeline,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Here.
Miss Bolt.
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
Motion passes 4-0. We'll move on to the minutes from the July 18th, 2025 special meeting. Once again, you have those minutes. If you review those, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to clarify if we need to clarify. Any questions?
No.
No questions. I have a motion to approve the July 18th, 2025 special meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Babel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bolton. Any further discussion? Then call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Miss Angeline, Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolt.
Yay.
Motion passes 4-0. You have the pay ordinance in front of you. Cindy doesn't have to be here the only reason she would be here is to answer any questions you may have. If there are no questions, I would ask you to come up with a motion to approve pay ordinance 08-2025.
Can we delay? Unfortunately, I told this thing it could go ahead and pay ordinance yet. I did read the minutes already.
Okay, you haven't seen the pay ordinance?
Oh, wait a minute.
Did you pack?
Oh, it's in, I didn't, did I get it back? I thought my desk was.
You're the finance.
No, whatever. Just let me glance over it real quick.
Take your time.
The American Legal Publishing, do you know, Justin, or
I can answer that
is
question.
that like our second
It
payment?
is our second.
That's not a monthly thing.
No, that's one time.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Bolton. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Burns. Any further discussions? Penny, please call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Miss Angeline,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Miss Bolton.
Yay.
Okay, I want to read the public comments part because I talked with Mr. Merkel before we prepared this. Since it is a special meeting, we are limited. Normally, we would open ourselves up to the public on any topic they wanted to talk about, but because this is a special meeting, he said this has to be on the agenda. And I must also make everybody aware that he's not here tonight because his mother passed away. I think it's 2 days ago, am I correct in that? Okay. 2 days ago, so that's why he is not here to see. Is there anybody that wants to question anything that's on the agenda tonight?
Well, can I just say that if we get to that topic, they can ask questions, right?
They can
As
ask
long as it's
questions
on
when
the
we get to
agenda.
it, but I'd rather at this point, let
Okay.
the public,
That's fine.
Mr. Dunn.
Mayor Burkholz, I wanted to first say, thank you so much for the transparency for publishing this packet online, providing the information to the public. You have been amazing in your communication. I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. And the fact that I was able to look at all this information before even coming tonight and not having to quickly, look at this before I got here. It's really amazing that a local government does this because I don't think there's another local government around that is transparent. So I want to give you credit for that. Thank you for that. And I think that's an amazing service for the people of Cleves that you take the effort. I know you're probably putting in a ton of your personal time to make this transparency happen. And I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. So I wanted to say that. I also think that the reason why I wanted to make a comment was on the police, reestablishing the police force is it does make me nervous in order to reestablish the police because I think along with that comes liability and expenses. And I think the public has been relatively clear that they don't want Cleves to do anything but fill potholes, keep the water running, and do the basics. They don't want to pay any more money. And if we hire a police officer, we pay and reestablish the police department, that's going to come at a cost. And I know there's an argument for what we might get for that in order to have a village of Cleves. To make it worthwhile to be a village, you want certain services, and I totally understand those arguments, and I understand there's another side of it. But the public has, I think, spoken in almost every levy campaign we've had to reject all those levies to say they don't want anything but the basics. And for me, that's the way I feel. I don't want to pay another dollar for anything that we don't absolutely have to have. One police department's a lot, paying for two is a lot more. So my own personal feeling is that I would like for us not to do that. I understand the way things work. This is on the agenda. The intention is to move forward. So I don't think my words are going to stop anything. I just felt like I needed to express that opinion and share that with you. And I do appreciate the transparency and the openness and allowing me to understand what's going on and have the opportunity to make these comments. And so even though I might disagree with the policy, I do appreciate with all the work that you guys are doing, and I hope you understand that position.
I certainly do, and I'm gonna be very limited in my comments in response to that, because initially, the only person that was gonna be speaking on this would have been our village solicitor. And there's some very specific reasons why I'm not an attorney, so I can't explain it the way he would explain it. But I do understand what you're saying, and I might disagree with what you think the people have said or they haven't said, because there was never a vote ever given for the people to make that decision. That decision was made behind closed doors, and
To disband was
I'm sorry?
made behind closed doors.
I'm sorry,
The decision to disband was made
those
behind closed doors.
decisions were made, I believe, before they voted. So yes, there were.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that we've not
No,
done
we've
anything.
not done that. This is back in 2020. So, I don't think there has been. And, from the standpoint of the current legislation, I would love to give you more information, but I don't think it's gonna cost what you're concerned about. Okay, but I will keep everybody appraised of what's going on. And I really appreciate your comments about transparency, because I've had, conversations with some members of council, I won't name them at this point, who wonder why I do that. And I do it specifically for the reasons that you were saying,
I appreciate
that
that.
people need to know so they have a chance to voice. If they're objected to it, they need to be heard.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Anybody else there want to, question anything here on the agenda? Okay, so we're gonna start off with, sort of the old business, which we sort of got into here. And, as I said, I'll be very limited in what I'm going to say. And that is because of the fact that we've been trying to establish this for quite a while. And we found out through that process, there were certain things we had to do that we had not done. And that is in reference to it being a criminal justice organization. And so that ordinance came about basically through a recommendation from the FBI. And that's about as far as I'm gonna go on that, because I can't go further because our attorneys told me not to.
But this is the establishment of a mayor's court.
No, it's not just that. No, it's exactly what it says,
Okay,
okay? That ordinance would declare that we are engaged in that criminal justice. And while it may be related to the mayor's court, it really is not that, okay? We have to do what, if we want to do things in this village that enforce our ordinances, that the sheriff's department cannot and will not enforce. And I'm not blaming them, they just can't. That's the only way we're gonna get to that point. So, and I'll leave that to Rob at the next meeting to go further. Okay, so we're gonna move on to new business. And on new business, and if people want to question any of these things too, you're more than welcome to do that.
I ask a question real quick.
Sure, I want to hold, make sure it's specific
Right, it's specific to this.
to what.
Do the police, is it possible to do one reading tonight?
That's what we're doing.
Okay, I didn't,
Yeah, that's what this is first reading.
okay.
And I could go further into that, but whenever we're presenting it to the public like we're doing here tonight, that is the first reading. Okay. Going on to new business, also first reading. This is an ordinance clarifying the responsibility for maintaining grass and weeds within the adjacent right of way. Justin, you sort of pulled this together. You want to give an overview of this draft and what we're attempting to accomplish?
Sure. The intent here, I mean, really comes from with our increased efforts for zoning and code enforcement, we found a handful of parcels where grass isn't being cut, it's overgrowing, specifically on East State Road, which is a county right of way. And so, as we dove into our code of ordinances and the Ohio Vice Code, we didn't have anything that governed or required property owners to maintain the right of way between the roadway and their property line. And so essentially this ordinance is to, establish responsibility to the homeowner that's adjacent to it to cover the right of way from where their property line ends to the roadway. The language of this was drafted from many other municipalities, Mason and other villages, the surrounding area that have the same governing legislation. So if there's any questions on it, I'll answer them.
Say right of way, are you talking about the tree skirt or?
So traditionally the tree skirt, yes. So if you're driving up East State, generally speaking, the right of way is 22 feet from the center median. There's other areas, but East State's the best example and kind of what led us to this. Generally, the property comes out to the center median of the roadway. The landowners are responsible for it. On East State, the county owns that right of way. Sometimes it's a 10-foot stretch, sometimes it's 20, but that leaves a gap from the curb, your traditional tree skirt, or whatever you call it, from the curb to the property line. That's not getting mowed, it's not getting maintained. We don't have the ability to do it. And the Ohio Revised Code says that it's not the county engineer's responsibility to do it, even though it's their property. Leaves us with two options to have homeowners responsible for maintaining that, or it's just not maintained.
I thought we received state highway funding, that part of that was supposed to go to help us maintain that.
For US 50, we do. Not for East State. That's my understanding, speaking with their service.
And quite frankly, even if that's true, Linda, which I don't think it is, we do not have the manpower or the ability to make that happen on a regular basis. They have a hard enough time. One of the reasons on my mayor's page, I constantly is showing what our maintenance people are doing. They have 63 acres of grass to cut every week out in the park, not to mention a number of other properties that are owned where the resident is not taking care of the property, and either the house is in foreclosure or something like that. We have to go in, we have to. There's only so many hours in the day.
I understand all that, Chuck. I think what concerns me is, are we putting a burden on East State Road residents that the rest of the residents don't have? Up in my
99%
subdivision.
of East State residents take care of that right.
Yeah, but do Westgate residents have to do that?
I believe they do.
You believe they do?
I believe they, I absolutely am certain.
According to our ordinances?
According to our order.
Okay. That's all I was concerned about.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that
Same
this
thing in
isn't
Coleman Woods.
specific to one strip of roadway.
It's specific for, I don't think it's just specific to that. We have other residents in other parts of the village that don't maintain the right of way when they should be and have the responsibility to do it. I think this ordinance says exactly what we've intended. Clarity. We want our residents to know. And just to be clear, because the next thing we're going to talk about is this. One of the problems the old council had, and I hate to take a shot, deals with this, which I'll get to in a second, because I'm going to talk specifically about the next thing. But yes, we have many residents who take care of the right of way just perfect, and we are thankful for that. But I think from a standpoint of clarifying it for people, this ordinance gives them that responsibility, and it's perfect.
That's all I'm asking, is I want to make sure it's not specific to just one strip of roadway with only the residents that live on that
You
road.
know, it's very similar to, in many ways, when you take a look at Westgate or you take a look at Coleman Woods. They're in that right of way area, okay? You've got a sidewalk usually, okay? And then you've got an area that you have to maintain. And most people take care of that without any problem. You go into Coleman Woods, you're not gonna see anybody that doesn't have the
But
right.
wouldn't East State residents also fall under that same ordinance that we fall under?
Well, I'm not.
Why do we need something special? I'm
Well, I
just
think
curious.
it's
I'm not,
simply because we have new residents, okay, who don't take care of it. And number two, we are a municipality. We are not a rural area, okay, which means, for example, when Ed's doing the enforcement and he's out in Miami Township as their enforcement officer, he's got to enforce Miami Township, he's got to enforce Addison, he's got to enforce Cleves. He doesn't do North End. So when he's doing that, and you have to do it one way at Miami Township and another way, they're not concerned. I can tell you Miami Township is not concerned about the right of way. The village of Cleves is, and I think every resident should be concerned.
Okay, I understand that, Chuck, but I'm just saying if we already have an ordinance that covers the right of way for all residents,
It does not clarify. It does not clarify
Okay.
on that road.
that's what I'm asking.
So let me go on if I can, unless there's more questions. I'd like to go on to adopting the Cleves Code of Ordinances. Prior to last year, if you had gone onto our website, and I think it's even still there right now, there were just some ordinances that would show up and you could go in and you didn't even know whether they were enforceable. There's something in the Ohio Revised Code, and it's not just Ohio Revised Code, it's everywhere in every state. Okay, you have the right to due process of law. And if you're going to enforce an ordinance, residents should have the right to see exactly what those ordinances are, and they should be tested against court cases. That recommendation had been given to previous councils and ignored. So for 20 years, we did not know whether or not our ordinances were legal or they weren't legal. So we invested into our process. We want all of our ordinances to be legal and we want them all up to date. In that process, we found out there are gaps. One of the gaps deals with what we're talking about just a second ago. It really didn't address it. That's why we're addressing it this way. So there's going to be a point in time after this next new business. We can't vote on it tonight, okay? But this next one is adopting these. Okay, so there's a bunch of these books that are going to be available to the public, and eventually they will be on our website, and you'll be able to search for any ordinance and how it impacts you. So you will have the access as a citizen of the village of Cleves, and you can go on American Legal on their site right now and go across all of Ohio, and you'll see every town that has those posters. Some of them are limited, okay? When I say limited, what's that called? The Ohio Basic Code, I think is what a lot of them deal with.
That's what we followed for years.
Yeah, well, that's only part of the process. So this particular process took a look at 20 years of ordinance. So it went back 20 years. Every ordinance we had to look. Some of them, they said, are no longer applicable, no longer legal. Some of those were ones listed right on our website. Okay, so you can't be operating a government that has laws that are outdated and no longer applicable. We want to make sure our residents had the correct ordinance. So we dealt with that. Now, there's many other reasons I could get into, but I'm not going to get into it because it doesn't align with the special meeting. I just want everybody to know that this was not cheap. Okay, over 2 years, it cost us $20,000 to do. And it deals with a lot of different things that should be happening in our village. And that issue, I think, is the one advantage we have of being a home rule village, is that we have the ability to make ordinances. And those ordinances can be ones that the public have a right to speak on and talk about, which I think is the correct way as a former government teacher, the way the legislative process is supposed to be. You're supposed to let your residents know. And I think there are people sitting in here right now who can remember the day where nobody attended our meetings, okay? Because quite frankly, they didn't even know what was being discussed. That's where the transparency comes in. I want our residents to know. I want our residents to know why we did this. It's gonna be available and they can find out whatever they want to find out. The number of questions we get from residents saying, well, what are my rights? And a lot of times it's property between neighbors. What is the law on, for example, open burning? That's another one of the gaps we're trying to close.
That's what doesn't cover all of our ordinances, though,
It
right?
does.
All of them.
Every single
You
one.
said we have several of those
With several what?
copies of that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We're not giving that away, though,
No, but it's gonna be available for anybody who wants to come
to
in.
come in and look at.
It's available online.
And that's the
I
available
know.
online.
But nobody can come in and take one of those books with them.
It's there. There'll be one over at his office. There's one here. Actually, this one's Rob's, okay, but he's not here tonight.
Okay,
I just wanted to demonstrate
Okay.
that in reality, those are our ordinances. Okay, many of them dealt with a lot of different things. Some of them weren't even on the books, but should have been on the books. And that's what we're trying to correct.
yeah, I want to clarify something because I was the elected clerk treasurer up until 2015. We maintained our ordinances. We codified them once. So I don't want people to think that we've not had this done for 40 years. Because when I was here, we were doing it. Anybody that wanted to know an ordinance could come in and get it. I filed them, I posted them. I did everything I was legally supposed to do up till 2015 when I left. So I just want to clarify that, Chuck,
That's fine.
because I
Yeah,
was involved in that.
But
So
I can tell you after that, if it wasn't being done.
very possible, but
And regardless of that, okay, it wasn't being reviewed yearly. Ours will be reviewed. There's court cases that come about all the time. Every time we pass an ordinance, and he sends off the ordinance, it's put into our book and it's put back online. So we keep everything up to date.
oh, I think it's a good thing. I just don't want confusion about
No, I don't either.
how long it's been since,
I don't either. I can tell you it had, our ordinances had not been through a formal process for quite a while.
yeah, back, we supposed to do it at least once in a decade. That's what the auditor used to say. We did it once in the 18 years I was. Probably not enough. We hired somebody, they did it. So I'm just clarifying that. Since I was responsible, in those 18 years, I was the clerk treasurer.
All right, so that's the first reading of this one. I'm gonna move on to regulating open burning. And this one is a classic example of why we need something like this. And Justin, you went through and you pulled this together. Give us a little background, and then I'm gonna talk about what we found out last year when we were trying to maintain our fields over there, and there was a conflict between Miami Township and the village over, what is open burning? Go ahead, please.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, to go back on the code of ordinances, it's been a year-long process. So to your point, adopting basic code is adopting model ordinances.
And that's what we did every year.
What Mayor Burkholz showed is our code of ordinances, which is model policies plus all of our locally legislated ordinances. If we pass an ordinance that mirrors or conflicts with something in a model policy, ours takes precedent. And so that's the final product we're looking at. The ordinance we just read. Part of that review process over the last year was the law director, American Legal Publishing, and myself reading through and identifying gaps. You know, ordinances we don't have, things that we can't regulate that most municipalities do. So the right-of-way ordinance is one of those gaps that we aim to fill. This regulating open burning is another gap we need to fill. We need to address as a municipality. So this policy is drafted not to circumvent Ohio Fire Code or the EPA standards or the Ohio Revised Code, but to identify our expectations as a community and what's allowed for open burning. You know, like think that our community has an expectation that if they want to have a controlled fire pit or a propane fire pit, or they want to fire a grill up, they're fine to do that. But if they want to burn their yard off, or if they want to have a bonfire, that's not safe, and we don't want to allow that. And if we are going to allow that, we want to have some sort of permitting process to make sure that they have the appropriate water source, the fire department knows, things like that. So, I mean, that's the heart of the purpose behind this ordinance here.
Yeah, let me give you a couple of examples. So currently, the Miami Township Fire Department operates on the state fire marshal regulation. That is only enforceable in an unincorporated area. They have tried to enforce it in the village of Cleves. So technically, you're not supposed to be burning almost the entire year. And last year, we had a situation where we were trying to, and it was controlled. Okay, we were burning off the fields over at the park, and we were shut down by the fire department. And at that time, I talked to the fire chief, and I went ahead and did what he asked me to do, which was called the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and then they found out we were a village, and in fact, they said it doesn't apply. Okay, so if it doesn't apply, then we gotta take a look at what does our ordinance have to say. That's where the gap came in. We didn't have an ordinance. Okay, we didn't have an ordinance. So we need an ordinance, because I can also tell you, and this goes back about 3 or 4 years, I was working out in my yard and I contacted the Miami Township Fire Department wanting to be able to burn off some stuff along US, not US 50, but East State. They told me no. And I didn't do it. Okay, they told me no, I didn't do it. I want to obey the law. I want to obey our fire department. They're there to protect us. But what about burning, for example? One of the things I got early on, and was over here on Morgan Street. Somebody tore down a deck and they wanted to burn that on their property. And I told them, I said, well, I don't think the Miami Township Fire Department's gonna like that. I'm pretty sure the EPA isn't gonna want you to do that. But honestly, I don't know what the answer is. And to get to that answer, we had to have an ordinance. And in this particular ordinance, if you're trying to have a little fire in your backyard, you're gonna be able to do that, okay? As long as under control, you're gonna be able to do that. But you're not gonna be able to burn, according to, I think, this ordinance, yard waste and other things like that. Am I correct on that?
Only, yeah, and, it can't exceed 5 feet in diameter, 3 feet in height, burning only clean, dry, seasoned wood, natural gas or equivalent.
So that's what it is, all right? Now, I don't think the fire department has any issue with that, okay? I've talked with the fire department. The thing is, do our residents have an issue with it? And if they do, that's a good reason for them to be coming down to our council meeting. If they object to this ordinance, they should have a right to tell us why they object to it. And so that's why under ideal situations, you're supposed to have 3 readings, okay? But normally when you have 3 readings, okay, you're going to have more council meetings than we currently hold in our village. So we are counting this as one. And Justin and I talked about this before. We were gonna do 3 meetings on this regardless. Okay, there's some things that are an emergency that you need to deal with as an emergency because it deals with public safety. I don't think any of these, the right of way or this fire pit or fire, ordinance, whatever you want to call it, open burning ordinance. None of those generally are unless you start burning somebody's house down. And so I just want to make sure we're getting our ordinances in line so that we as a village aren't liable. And I think we could have been liable with absolutely no ordinance in place. We did have it. So I hope that answers anybody's questions. Mr. Oppenheimer.
I don't think it's your intention to be sticklers on nitpicking things, but I guess the term yard waste, I have a lot of trees on the back of my property. When a branch falls off and I cut it up in little pieces, is that yard waste or is that something else?
That kindling for a small little fire pit.
I've got a good sized fire pit,
Yeah.
not 5 feet, it's 4 feet.
I think, natural brush that falls back, that you're going to burn is seasoned. It'll catch. It's not putting off a noxious gas. As long as you keep it within the height requirements, I think that would qualify as, dry seasoned wood.
So like a burn barrel, 'cause there's quite a few people my neighborhood that have burn barrels. I'm one of them.
If you're burning clean, dry, seasoned wood, then there's no problem with it, as long as it's, with it contained and it doesn't exceed 5 feet in diameter, the flames 3 feet in height out of a controlled area.
Are there any other questions or comments on any of those during the first reading? Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Justin. He has a very important one that he needs to explain, and this is a resolution. And Rob and I had a long discussion about whether resolutions have to be 3 readings or 1. And quite frankly, in the end, I think he told me it was 1, but sometimes when you're talking to Rob, I get lost. So whatever we legally have to do, we're gonna do.
Resolutions used to be one.
Well,
for years.
what- In Ohio Revised Code, there are some conflicting things because you have villages that have charters and you have villages.
Well, we
that
are, yeah,
statutory.
we're statutory.
We're a statutory village, and we have to abide by that.
Right.
And I can't tell you the difference between the two, but go ahead, Justin.
So I know we struggled, we lost the council meeting packet digitally. I don't have it in my electronic file. You have to print it out.
Yeah, somewhere here, yeah.
You need the actual
No,
resolution.
we can get it.
It's, yeah,
It's right here.
So a resolution granting the village administrator the authority to approve contract to supply bulk water to the village of Addison. We've discussed this in prior meetings, committees. Addison's come upon a hardship, especially with NEO's closing. Their well fields are located on NEO's property. When NEO's does finally discontinue operations, they'll no longer pull a vacuum on their wells, which will essentially let the flume extend into Addison's well sourced, and it'll become contaminated as early as a week after NEO stops that. There's already some contamination concerns that are occurring. So work with the EPA and a nonprofit RCAP, which is a Rural Community Water Assistance Organization. With them, I submitted for the EPA grant for regionalization for us to extend our water main and tie into the village of Addison, provide them a bulk water source. We were given an award for that, around $900,000. In order to move forward on that grant award that we've obtained, we have to execute a bulk water agreement. So essentially, we need to prove to the EPA that we are, in fact, going to supply Addison with bulk water, and in turn, they have to agree that they're going to abandon their well fields. I need council to grant me the authority to negotiate a contract with Addison to supply that bulk water. Does anyone have questions with the grant process or the bulk water discussions?
Well, are they eventually going to be part of our water system? Are they gonna be billed like people outside the village are billed? Are they gonna be billed? How is it going to work functionally?
Probably depends, if you don't mind me interjecting, it's probably gonna depend whether or not their village council is even interested in doing it with the village of Cleves. There was a situation where they looked at doing it with the Greater Cincinnati Water Works. So I don't know how to totally answer what you're saying, because we're not that far along. But I know if he's going to discuss it with them, and they're gonna get down to the nitty gritty to get to what you're asking, he's gotta have the authorization.
Well, it's conceivable that Cincinnati Waterworks could expand, provide their water, and our bulk line would be just like an emergency, a secondary source if something were to happen.
There's a possibility in the future that if Addison's council decides to go with the city of Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati Water Works, it's a permanent solution that we would no longer supply bulk water. If that occurred and we execute a bulk water agreement at this point, project will be funded. It'll make our system more robust. We'll have another emergency connection. It'll limit those that will be out of water. If there was a main break, it would give us another point of connection. So for example, if Aston View or US 50 there was a break, by St. Anne's, we could shut a valve off while we conducted those repairs, and we could tap into our emergency connection. that we
So it's a
have.
win-win for us and we got the grant, correct?
Correct. At this point, in order to move forward on the grant, we have to have modeling in by the end of October, and that takes some time for an engineer to complete. We're behind. We're behind to get that done. And so time's of the essence for us to have, grant me the ability to execute a contract, and Addison will ultimately decide.
Okay.
At this point, their council hasn't made a decision. I provided a draft contract to them of what that would look like conceptually, just so we could have a working point. But your approval of this resolution would then allow me to, speed this negotiation.
What's the number
up.
of the resolution?
Well, we're not voting on it today. We can't vote on it today. Normally, we could have passed this by suspending the rules, but because we only have 4 people here tonight, we can't.
Resolutions are not normally done by emergency.
This is an emergency though. What Rob told us is that we cannot do anything because we don't have enough people here to suspend. the rules.
Okay, so this is a first reading.
It is, and it could very well be in the next meeting, but we will suspend the rules for this one. But, the issue I think boils down, based on the advice of our attorney, we can't deal with it today.
Okay.
Anything else you need to say on that?
Say, yes, go, Mr.
I don't know how to spit this out, but is it the state of our environmental enforcement that INEOS has created a public hazard? They're getting out of Dodge. They can declare bankruptcy or just that we're gone, and they can turn off the fan and pollute public utility and other, like, I don't know what this plume is, but does it not affect the Ohio River given its location? Like,
Yes.
is that the state of it? Like, it's like, sorry, we're out of here, and they're not held to.
My understanding is
the
it's
fans running?
already affecting the Ohio River, and it's already affecting Addison's water. So, I mean, there's PFOS, which is a form of, forever chemical, is like carbonate molecule. That's already, and INEOS produces carbonate. They make, essentially the plastic beads for car moldings, and they've made that for decades and decades. That plume exists. It is seeping into the Ohio River. It's already leached into Addison's well field. But they pull a vacuum. So you essentially have 5 wells there in Addison. One's not operational. INEOS pulls vacuum on 2 of them to cool their system and uses an internal water source for the production. And then Addison has, well 4 and 5 downhill. Once that vacuum stops, when they cease operations, the plume will then seep in. And that's really a question for the EPA, but in all my conversations with them, there's not much they can do to prevent any of this from shutting down. And they're eager to get Addison off of that water source, whether it's us or Greater Cincinnati Waterworks. Those are the only 2 options that Addison really has that's been given to the EPA. There's no other location for Addison to tap a new well on a separate water source. So yeah, I mean, it's their future's bleak when it comes to their water system. So
I don't think we want to give the impression that their water is contaminated right now. I think that would be a mistake.
no, and I'm not giving that. There's
You said it's already seeping in.
Well,
Someone could imply that their water isn't safe.
that comes from the EPA's water report, which is public knowledge. So there's a threshold on PFAS. There's a certain allowable amount of PFAS that can be in water. There is a detectable amount at last reading, and what they publish on their water quality report, it's below the threshold that the EPA governs. But it is a concern. It's a serious concern. Even at this point, and there's no doubt that it will be well above the allowable limit as soon as INEOS stops.
Shuts down and
if not
stops,
sooner.
which they haven't done yet.
They have not done this point.
I just don't want to confuse people we're broadcasting live, and I don't want to get into legal issues on environmental legal issues when an expert isn't here to answer those questions.
I'm just speaking as a layperson.
I know, and I'm not trying to criticize you on that. I just think that it could be confusing. To a resident who thinks their water is already contaminated. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm.
I don't think you're confused, Linda. I think it's a very unfortunate situation.
Well, my husband works there, so I'm somewhat informed on what's going on.
I watched the Addison, council meetings. I heard the things that are going on. I've attended a meeting with him addressing some of that. They're concerned. They got a short time frame.
I understand.
So, and they don't know which way they're gonna go. We don't either.
Yeah. I want us to be able to provide them water once they need it, so that's not an issue.
So next meeting, we're gonna have to take action on that. That takes care of his administrator's report. I want to talk just briefly about, get into the curb day, because of the length of some of our meetings, I didn't get a report on that. So I do want to update our community. Everything we did on Get It to the Curb Day was paid for by Hamilton County Grant. And Cindy, I know you sent me the amount that we have left. I think it's like $400 or something. So it's a $5,000 grant is what it was. And we spent 2 days going through the village because the county wants us to be, and we should be anyhow, environmentally responsible. And a lot of times what happens is people will try to put things into garbage cans and things that they shouldn't have. In fact, I had one of our residents, that we were picking up tires too, tell me, well, I just cut them up and put them in the garbage. That's not what you're supposed to do. I explained that to them. I said, that's why we're picking up tires, we're taking other things. So in this particular one, this will give you a little bit of poundage, because they're also taking a look at how do we keep rumpus from getting bigger? How do we keep them dumping into landfills? So they classified what we brought them as what's called mixed electronics, which could have been anything from TV sets to radios. We had pinball machines. We had a lot of different stuff. You know, we picked up 1,978 pounds of what they call recycling miscellaneous mixed electronics, and that was all done by our village maintenance staff and paid for by the grant. So not one tax dollar of resident dollars went to do that. We also collected 2,350 pounds of metal, scrap metal. And so that was taken out there and that was recycled. To give you an idea of the amount of TVs we took, 1,729 pounds of television, 36-inch flat screens, all the way each one, up and down. Okay, and because you have to pay for that, we have residents that had 10 TV sets in their house.
Yeah, because you used to have to pay like $100, $150 to take them.
Yeah, well, we had to pay for the recycling of that, and we were charged $25. But that was once again the grant.
All covered under the grant.
All right, and then
the Boltons took advantage of that.
And then we had 49 other, I mean, we're talking CRT TVs, another 2,981 pounds. We paid for out of the grant, 8 refrigerators, 3 dehumidifiers, and 2 freezers, because they have to take the Freon out of that. So we had 13 of those. That cost $208 to the grant. We had stoves, we had dishwashers, we had batteries. I mean, it just goes on and on. But probably one of the most important services I think we provided is that we picked up old computers, and we actually paid for a certificate of documentation that their hard drives were destroyed, and there were 28 of those, so that you don't have to worry about identity theft. But it sort of goes on and on and on. I mean, I've got 2 pages of this stuff. I'll probably put it on our website at some point.
How much of the grant did we end up using?
Well, we have about 1,200 left, so about 3,800 bucks. And so we are going to be looking to do somewhat of a smaller version of that in the fall. I haven't figured that all out yet. That could be anything from bringing in somebody to shred, documents. It could be a pickup for hazardous chemicals that are hanging around your house. But if we do that, we're not going to be picking up. People are going to have to bring that kind of stuff down. And I'm still working on those. And I hope to have that to you in September. I'd like to do it in October and use up the whole $1,200 that we have to pay. Are there any questions about that? Okay. So let me move on to the next thing. I want to give you an update on America 250. The Village of Cleves is an America, Ohio 250. And we're planning to participate, as many communities are in Ohio, to celebrate our country's 250th birthday. So we meet twice a month, okay, and we're looking at a lot of different things. So one of the things we got to figure out is how do we pay for whatever type of celebration we have. And one thing that they really want villages to do is to create what's called a homecoming event. And so you have to actually file with the state. They send out a package to you, which we haven't received yet. And we look at how can we fit that in. And we would like to see some type of, in every village, every township, where you're celebrating your local history. So we meet twice a month. And one of the ones, and Bev Myers, those of you that know Bev, she's looking at purchasing 10 flags out of her own pocket. And then what will happen is those would be sold to sponsors. We're talking primarily our business people. And I'm not sure what the price is because we're still debating that. But the goal is that you put money into the account. She sometimes participates via phone, but that is something that would go into our events account so that when we have the homecoming event, we can actually do that. There's also going to be an Ohio 250 dinner. That is being planned. I believe it's going to be, it's either over at the Western Hills Club or it's going to be over at Hill Forest. They don't have all the deals on that yet, but they want to auction off a quilt, and Ben made the quilt. There is a letter getting ready to go out to residents, okay, and to business. And what will happen is we haven't decided how we're going to do it yet. Mailing is good, but it doesn't get to everybody. So we're looking at maybe doing something similar to what we did, or get it to the curb, buy door hangers, and hope that our residents will help support the activities. I know one of the things we would like to do is do some type of a fireworks. We've got to raise the money to do it. We have decided not to hold a July 4th event because, quite frankly, there are so many other villages across that we were afraid that we couldn't get historical enactors to come on that day. So we're looking at the weekend of, this is wrong on here, it's not July, it's June 25th and 26th of 2026. There's also going to be different activities, family activities that don't cost anything. Those are being planned. They're looking at in November for Memorial Day of November of Veterans Day of 2026 and Memorial Day, doing what are called veteran tribute banners. And so we're looking at families. I think the way it's supposed to work is Legions will donate some money. We haven't talked to our American Legion yet, but I think it costs the family somewhere around, I think it's somewhere around $50 to purchase a flag. It would be flown in the village, and then it reverts back to the ownership to the family. And our next meeting will convene on Monday, August 25th, 2025. And that is, it says 11 a.m., but I believe that's a PM one, isn't it? Eddie, our next meeting is PM.
It should be a Tuesday, not a
Tuesday?
Monday. Yeah, Tuesday, that one would be at 7 PM.
Okay, Tuesday. And what is that Tuesday's date?
Let's see.
26.
Yeah, the 26th,
26th?
August, yeah. Because, or no, it's September 2nd, that's a 7 PM.
Hold on a second. Why have I seen some August? We better double check on that. You get that out. I'm not sure that these.
Yeah, September 2nd is, yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah, it's the first and
September what?
second,
September 2nd, 7 o'clock.
the first and third Tuesday.
At 7 PM.
The first one's at 7.
First one's at 7, the next one's at
3, yeah.
All right, the next thing I want to talk about is very brief. We held a public meeting here last fall, and that meeting dealt with a gate that was going to the new subdivision over in Miami Township. And we promised our community that we would make a decision, which we haven't had the opportunity to do. So we are going to be starting what's called a streets committee. And that street committee is gonna be charged with some responsibility working with our council. I believe that date is September 4th at 6 PM. And so I'll be sending out information to our residents. It'll be on our website. It'll be emailed out in our weekly minutes, asking for volunteers. And what we would really like to do is we already have somebody from Coleman Woods. Would like to have somebody from Westgate, somebody from the downtown area, Aspen View, over across Mary where you live, over by Timberline and that area. We'd like to involve at least one citizen as part of that committee. That's our goal. But in the end, we're gonna have to make a decision. Okay, what happens? Are we gonna put in a gate or aren't we gonna put in a gate? And long term, we gotta take a look at how are we going to fix our village's streets? Now, Brian, I know you live in Coleman Woods, you drive across the Baja there on Edgefield every day. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And currently we don't have the amount of money that we need to do that. But we're gonna have to figure it out because you can't leave it go forever. I know Linda's talked about this in the past. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this. Because I think if we're gonna get this situation solved, we gotta bring our residents in as part of the problem solving process. So that'll be on September 4th, and I'll be putting information out on that.
Well, what would be members of council on that committee?
Yeah, there's members of the council.
Who is on it?
Stephanie's gonna be on it.
Okay,
You asked me to ask Ted, he can't do it because of health reasons.
okay.
Any member of council wants to serve on there.
Yeah, because council ultimately will be voting on that issue.
I'm sorry.
If you don't mind, right now that the new development's going in, I think they're putting in something like 50-something houses over there.
Yeah.
To get out of the neighborhood for them, they have to kind of wind out through Indian Walk to get out. If we don't put a gate there, they are gonna come through Coleman Woods almost certainly, and 50-something houses, I mean, getting out of our neighborhood at rush hour is a nightmare. You add all that traffic coming through our neighborhood, the traffic on our roads, it's gonna be really bad.
And that's, we have talked about, so I can just give you a little more information on that. It's unfortunate that there was discussions that didn't involve our council at all about a promise that was made to residents on New Pine about putting a gate in. The problem with that, no, council wasn't talked to, the council needs to make a decision. And even if the streets committee makes a recommendation, ultimately it's gonna fall on the backs of council to make a decision because they're gonna have to pay for that gate. Now, if we're gonna put a gate in, and to your point, with all that additional traffic, and if you have heavy equipment coming across, it's not gonna just tear up Edgefield, it's gonna tear up all our streets. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed with that. And there's lots of different views. You got residents who feel just like you feel, and then you got others that feel like it's a lot shorter to go a different direction. I wouldn't mind giving out that direction. I think the community needs to be part of that discussion. Yes, go on.
Can, somebody from maintenance be on the committee?
I'm sorry?
Can somebody from maintenance?
That's your husband.
Well, that's,
No, I'm teasing you.
if he had the opportunity to be on that committee,
Yeah, you could become it. He happens to live in the village.
he would also know a lot.
I'm sure he would.
Yeah.
She's gonna tell him.
Are you volunteering yet?
Yes, yes.
Are you volunteering yet?
Get talking it.
If you do, I'm gonna text him right now, and let him know.
Right ahead, sleeping on the chair.
I would like to say though that the formation of a committee is a great idea. I think we still need to have some public hearings
I agree.
so that council can hear, you know, I can't attend another meeting at this time, but I would want to be informed.
Yeah.
As to what, and you have one member of council on there.
Well, we need more than one, okay? Justin will be sitting on it. I'm not gonna sit on it, but any member of council can sit in on those, and we will post them so people know. I agree.
But I think we need a public hearing where everybody on council's here to hear what the public
I
hearing.
agree.
Okay.
Okay, let me go on to the next part, and that's the public safety levy update. This is very brief too. We had to deliver our resolution down to the Board of Elections. And I just want to make sure council knows that our petition is good. So it will be on the ballot, but the numbers will not be assigned until 60 days before the election. So that's the update I have. Nothing else has changed. It's a 4.5 safety mill levy. The information we've given out pretty publicly, and I'll make sure that information once again is on our website. And then finally, I'd like to do a very brief update on our clean court. This deals with property maintenance, and it can deal with a lot of different things. When I say a lot of different things, I know there are some fire code violations that the fire department has made me aware of in our village, and they will be citing into our clean court. Tonight, we held our first clean court. I think there were 4 cases. We have 5 on the docket. One person chose to come in early and just pay the fine and not go to court. We do have a magistrate who sits in that, and we have residents who sit as a jury in the event they actually contest it. And the way I understand that to work, and Justin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if they come and contest it, there'll be a continuance, and then it'll be at the next meeting that's heard. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. It's not an official jury. It's a quasi-like jury. So they don't serve as an official jury, where they're selected and polled and removed. They're appointed members. They serve as a quasi-jury to determine liability or not in a civil case. Really, this isn't a requirement of the village. Again, it's just offering an additional layer of due process for those accused.
Will the BZA and Clean be at the same day?
It'll be on the same day if there's a case to be heard. We don't always have a case for BZA or zoning appeals, but you're almost always gonna have a case for Clean.
That's a
We
Thursday.
are so far behind with violations. Some of them have been violating it long before 2020. And they got used to not maintaining their property. You know, so we have a responsibility as a village, okay, to make sure that properties are not devalued because of your neighbor. And we've had a number of cases. One of the ones that almost came here to this one is up on Pontius Avenue, where there was an open sewage running down the driveway for off and on for over almost 2 years. And I'm not sure where that stands, not that I want to get into that. But if it isn't corrected, they're gonna wind up in our Clean Court. And that's a property court, it's civil litigation. Any other questions on that? Then I don't have anything on the mayor's report to talk further. And I was gonna have Rob go over an overview for our members of the do's and don'ts before the levy, okay? Because there's certain things legally we can do and there's certain things legally we can't. But he's not here tonight, so I'm gonna move on to Mrs. Bolton, if you could give us your finance committee report.
I mean, we discussed a lot about the levy. Was the main topic. There was no fiscal report given at the last finance meeting. Cindy did provide reports before the meeting, but was not present at the meeting. We got an update from our village administrator concerning, water issues, and the potential down the road of possibly hiring a part-time clerk to assist Pam. But that's down the road. It was just brought up as something that's under consideration. South Street issues, you guys know that I'm pretty dedicated to that. I wanted to get a street program in as soon as we were able to do it. So we discussed Edgefield, Westgate, pothole repairs and other pothole repairs throughout the village. And Chuck, you did say you would be, calling JMA to look into an estimated cost to repair.
We've done that. So I know what the cost is,
Okay,
okay? And just to clarify what that meant, only to repair that section,
correct,
okay? That's so bad.
right,
And, that'll let you continue, but we do have to bid,
okay. So you were gonna get costs just to fix that one strip.
you know, and I'm not gonna go into that because that's technically not on here for me to talk about.
Okay, gotcha.
We get it next week.
Okay. And then we did talk about the formation of a street committee. If it's a committee of council, we have to have council people on it. If it's a resident committee, that's great.
I think it's a
But
combined committee.
we talked about forming a street committee. You said you had a couple of potential members for that.
I guess I do,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all we really talked about.
but we need more. Okay. Ed, are you next yet?
Yes,
Why don't you go ahead and do the safety report?
okay, I'll try to be quick with this. Public safety meeting was held on August 7th. Present was myself and Stephanie Myers. Jerry Meister was absent due to personal situation. Starting Carney, Justin Havig, and Mayor Chuck Burkle present. Citizen Dale Oppenheimer was there. We convened the meeting at 7 p.m. The police report was given by Sergeant Carney. July statistics were calls for service. There were 147. Non-billable calls were 91. Criminal reports were 6. There was 3 were thefts, 2 telecommunications, 1 arson, all signed by 2 detectives. Non-criminal reports, there were 3 of them. 2 medical emergency, 1 psychiatric emergency, 5 auto accidents, and there were 7 citations issued. There was also arson report clarification, incident coded as an arson due to firework damage to a motorcycle, likely to be reclassified as criminal mischief or damaging. Personnel changes that happened with the county. Sergeant Carney, is retiring on September 5th. We thanked him for his years of service for us. I feel he did the village of Cleves, wonderful service. Jason Shemming, how's it pronounced? Schmeek. He's gonna be attending the meeting for the town, or for the police department. Dan McElroy is gonna become the new district commander. Under old business, the traffic, logistics speed data, slight increase in speeding on North Miami Avenue. Police will continue targeting radar enforcement. Cruiser 134 and a dead battery issue, and possibly using it for deterrent parking. Emergency notification system training was scheduled for August 13th with the Hamilton County. I touched base with Justin today. That's progressing as we speak. The system will allow geo-targeted alerts to all cell phones in the area. Residents must opt into smart 911 notification and to landlines, and just for personal notification. I just did it myself in less than 5 minutes on my phone before the meeting, so it's really easy to do. I suggest the citizens of Cleves to sign into that. It's part of the big plan that we have as far as keeping the members of Cleves, the village of Cleves, notified of what's going on. Marketing plan to include the QR codes. That's part of the pamphlet that we have. And there's a website event. There's going to be there was information handed out to the Gravel Parade. There'll be information at the Christmas walk. Again, the parade and Gravel Sergeant Carney notified us that the meeting scheduled on Monday, and that Gravel is not using the county for their police protection. They are using private security for their campgrounds. Local authority and the ORI number, radios, programming, ORI reactivation is all pending. Will allow issuance of parking and traffic citation and vehicle impounds once completed. CT Young tornado shelter was discussed. I'm planning with the sheriff's office to open the shelter during tornado warnings. Key distribution plan in progress, access procedures to be finalized with the school security. Under new business, Force Pirates report. Social media posts noted a few formal police reports. Residents encouraged to report incidents directly to the police and consider linking security cameras to the fuses network. Traffic visibility concerns. North Miami and Markland and Morgan Street and intersections, limited visibility due to parking cars. Request to reevaluate installing traffic mirrors in public works to review feasibility. Item number 5, solicitation ordinance implementation. Vendor application for no-knock stickers and opt-in. No solicitation has been completed. Forms will be available online. Payments will be processed via the village website. And public outreach planning through the village channel and community events. So there'll be notifications on how that all works. Codification of ordinances. complete update village code ordinances, criminal and civil and zoning has been finalized. The final adoption ordinance will be presented to council, which it was tonight. And the new code will be searchable online after the adoption, as the mayor stated earlier in the meeting. Other updates, the zoning code for revisions, still in progress and will require council review before adoption. This is addition to what was discussed earlier today, and the meeting was adjourned. So action items, Public Works to evaluate feasibility and cost of installing mirrors at North Miami and Markland and Morgan intersection. Emergency notification training on August 13th. We talked about that. Follow up with the school district on the tornado shelter and continue targeted radar enforcement on North Miami. And prepare for final adoption of ordinances for updated village codes. Those are all things that are being worked on as we speak. That's all I'm going to report.
I've got a question.
Sure.
When can I get a sticker?
We're ready to go on it. The only thing we're waiting on, and it should have been published by today, so I can follow up with our web designer. As soon as she uploads that, everything's complete. As soon as that's uploaded, you'll be able to complete your form online through the village website, both if you're a vendor solicitor or if you want to apply to be on the no-knock list. Once you complete your application, it'll route to either the village clerk or myself. Penny can then process the application and take payment. So
I have to pay to get the sticker?
it's $10. That's just
Okay, I'm just asking.
it's $10 for the sticker.
It's worth it.
$10. And so the reasoning behind this part of our ordinance states that vendors and solicitors will go through a background check to make sure that they haven't committed a felony act of violence, or there's a list in our ordinance, and I don't have them right now, but it requires a background check for vendor solicitors. In order for us to do that, it requires us to purchase a software program through LexisNexis or a like organization. That's costly. It's $2,000-3,000 a year. Stickers cost for the $10 just for us to recoup some of that cost.
That's
to
fine.
take this on.
I just wanted to understand that.
And so, yeah, the goal here is that vendor solicitors will have a clear chain, clear line to applying for an application. They'll go through the background checks. They'll be issued.
Are they gonna get a list with people's addresses, or are you relying on them seeing the sticker?
So twofold. So they'll be their license will have to be displayed. We have lanyards that they'll have to wear when they're out. It'll have their picture on it, their business affiliation. They'll be given a current copy of the no-knock list when they're given their license. But also they'll sign off that any house that has sticker displayed is off limits. So any resident that wants to do that, as soon as it's live on the website, can submit, and the clerk will process it as soon as she's available.
So how do we find the no-knock list, application?
It's as soon as it's updated, as soon as she puts it on, it'll be on the village website under forms.
And I'll need something to send out this weekend in the village so that people know exactly what's happening.
Sure. As soon as it's live, I will put something together around.
How much are the vendors going to pay?
That's outlined through our local ordinance. I believe a vendor license is $40.
I mean, we have 1,000 households. We could have as many as 100 addresses or more on this list. And you said this whole list will be handed out to any vendor that applies?
Correct. It's
Okay.
like as a no fly zone. It won't have any of your information. It'll just be off limit addresses.
Okay.
What's the penalty for violating it?
It's codified in the code of ordinances. It may be clean court. I'd have to look and see if it's codified as a similar criminal.
They'll be really sorry if they knock on my door and put the sticker. Take care of it by themselves.
Folks, Gary.
They are interrupting my calm, peaceful weekends. I'm ready.
Your no-knock list will say before one
That-
PM.
Knock at your own risk.
There you go.
I
Everybody,
have my front door open. I have a storm door. I love the natural light coming in. And I'm not willing to give that up, but I'll put a sticker on my door.
That way I know you're home.
I'm one of the few in the neighborhood who does, by the way. Everybody else's front doors are closed tight.
Mine are closed though.
Kevin, you want to go ahead and give us the Parks Committee, the Christmas watching?
It should be pretty easy. So I believe the way this fell, we have 2 parks meetings and 2 Christmas walk meetings. Unfortunately, it's been the case that council members keep dropping off in their ability to attend. So, I believe 3 out of the 4 did not have more than 1 member of the administration attend. So, what we did have, at both parks meetings was, basically a get to know you with the new BMX people. We settled on our new relationship, what they want to accomplish. Daniel gave us minor updates on how the soccer was going. So that's all for parks, really. Christmas walk meeting in July was approximately 2 minutes long, and we said, I can't even remember. We just moved on with our lives. This most recent one was more parties, so the August 18th meeting. While I don't know how much we need to report, we know that security and safety is going to be a concern for the next time. We have several things booked, so progress is being made there. Sorry, at the bottom there. The major concern for this meeting was getting the business and parade outreach facilitators all set on their mission, which we have done. All appropriate action items and delivery of materials has been accomplished. And the major point of discussion really is, what are we going to do with people from 4 to 6? The major recommendation for everyone's public knowledge is that we're telling people the passport system will be operating from 11 to 4 or 11 to 5. But then we want people to mill around and be in the village and get ready for the parade if everything's nice from, say, 4 to 6. So we're looking at additional entertainment options, putting Chase McCurry on the back of the truck with some speakers, having different mascots running around, handing out Grinch, for example,
Gabby from the red, Rosie from the red.
handing out glow sticks or light ups for the night. Maybe having local installations of entertainment. Maybe we can invite buskers to sing at a certain trolley stop, and so forth. We have a subcommittee that's going to have 1 meeting, make recommendations, and discussion on what to do with that time period as we get ready for the parade to start. We'll hear that the next meeting, which is the 3rd Monday of every month at 6:30 in these council chambers. I don't think that anything else demands the public's updating at this point.
The only thing I can think of is we did spend quite a bit of time talking about what ifs. In other words, if the weather was bad, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so the same committee is supposed to handle a rain plan, which we're going to trust to them for until the next meeting.
Any questions from the audience? There's no questions. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that.
You guys do that?
Okay, perfect.
So, there were no questions.
I'll send you the
So,
no?
who made the first motion? Linda Bolt made the motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Babel. Any further discussion?
Maybe they want to do it.
Oh. Call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Get out of here.
Yes.
Miss Angeline,
Yes.
Mr. Babel,
Yay.
Ms. Bolton.
Yay.
We are.
Oh,